Welcome to the Extinction Level Event Podcast. I am your host, the Barrelman, and today we are going to have fun with Asteroids. Asteroids is a multi directional shooter video game developed and published by Atari for arcades. Originally released in 1979, eventually in Japan in 1980. Oh, wait, that's the wrong Asteroids. That's not the asteroids we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the fun asteroids that are coming to wipe us all out, except that they're not. Hmm. So, what in the heck are we even talking about? Well, as a lot of people probably know, especially anybody who's paying attention to this podcast, we have an asteroid that's supposed to come and kill us all in, was it 2032, I believe it is supposed to come. But the first projection was it had about a 1% chance to hit Earth. And then it went up to 2.3. And now it's essentially zero. Of course, it's not the only killer asteroid out there coming to get us, right? There are lots of little this and that, especially the fabled Apophis. So we're going to talk a little bit about these things today, especially the fact that, despite what you may have heard, absolutely none of these are planet-killing asteroids. So, in fact, this is a bit of a red herring. So, this is kind of a first red herring episode of the new type of podcast. I haven't quite got down the formula of how to distinguish the red herrings, other than maybe a title. But this is just the first one, so we'll see how this goes and see what I want to do in future ones to kind of distinguish the red herrings. But of course, the red herrings does not mean there isn't any validity to, some of the concern. It just means that a lot of the specific things that they're talking about are not going to come and wipe us out. That's just not really what's happening. Now, first off, and we will read into some of this because I've brought up several articles talking about these kinds of things. Both Apophis and I think it's 2004 YR20. Does it say in here? I know I got an article about it. I don't remember, like YR24 or something like that. Anyways, we'll look it up when we look up the things, but none of these are planet killers. They are city killers. So yeah, it's not that they won't do anything. They will definitely cause mass devastation and problems. If they happen to hit the ocean, we're talking some massive tsunamis. If they hit close to you in the ocean, that can be pretty bad. If they hit far enough in the ocean, it's still going to be bad for everybody on the shore. But at least we'll have maybe a couple hours, maybe a little bit more, depending on where you are, on which coast, to get the heck out of the way. Which, to be honest, in most places will be more than enough time. Not all places. Obviously, some places, like LA, it takes you 2 hours just to get into LA from, the coast or wherever you are, let alone get the hell out of the city. So for some places, even a couple hours just won't be enough time. And for some places, 2 hours is going to be plenty. So, and of course, it depends. And if you get those 2 hours, they're probably not going to be able to tell you exactly where the asteroid will hit, if it does hit. Which means there you won't actually know if you're in the path, and you will not know if you've got 2 hours or 2 minutes. They should be able to narrow it down quite a bit and say it's on this trajectory. Most likely, these are the places that are going to be the most likely to be hit and the most likely to be in danger. Therefore, you should be probably watching out in these areas. But they won't be able to tell you exactly where it's going to hit. So if you're like, well, I'm just going to find out, and if they don't say for sure it's going to hit me, I ain't going anywhere because who knows? Well, that's probably going to be your ass there. But yes, city killers indeed, tragedies for sure, pretty much no matter where they hit, but not extinction level events. And that's a huge difference because this is the Extinction Level Event podcast. I like to talk about disasters and horrible things, but a lot of which is because they are signposts of greater tragedies to come. This, of course, isn't necessarily a signpost because it isn't like, well, if one hits, it doubles the chance that the next year another one hits and it double. It's not like that. So one hitting is one hitting. Could more hit? Absolutely. Could bigger ones hit? They sure as hell could, and they could do a whole lot more damage. And we could have extinction level events, although that would take a pretty large asteroid to really do enough damage that it is for sure an extinction level event. I mean, we had Chicxulub that was the size of Mount Everest, I believe, or somewhere around there, and life moved on. It spelled doom for most of the dinosaurs. All the non-avian dinosaurs were, kaput. But life went on. We're here. Life still exists today. Even Chicxulub was not an extinction level event. It came close, sure. It could have been under different circumstances, slightly different variables. It definitely could have wiped out all life on the planet, but it did not. We survived, and we could survive something similar if it happened to be the case again. Even though it might seem like an extinction level event, and it definitely could be, it won't necessarily be. But the ones we're talking about today are not, for sure. Again, tragedies, horrible, people will die for sure. Not good, right? We're not saying in any way it's okay or don't worry about it. But on the scale of extinction level event, which is kind of my thing that I like to talk about here, because in my opinion, we're all going to die, right? Like on what they say in Fight Club, on a long enough timeline, everybody's life expectancy drops to zero. So the fact is, life should not be lived for yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't live any life for yourself. I'm saying life in and of itself, the meaning of life should not be, for you, because you're simply a small piece in the larger timeline, a huge scale of which, if we're here to do anything, it should be to help progress everybody, right? People always say they want their kids to have a better life than they do. Well, if we don't move in a progressive way, that doesn't happen. Only when we move in a progressive way, when we make better technologies, cleaner technologies, we find problems that we didn't know were being caused before, we fix those problems, like when we were first discovering radiation and people were getting sick and we didn't know about it. And it's like, what's happening? And then we found it. Guess what? We're not going to blame somebody. You didn't know. I didn't. Nobody even knew radiation was a thing. But once we find out, yeah, we need to stop doing that. We need to fix it. We don't go, oh, well, whatever, we're making money. Let's just do more radiation. Who cares? No, you're like, okay, well, we'll find another way. That's progress. When we were using mercury for a bunch of stuff, like the whole Mad Hatter thing, right? But mercury is used in a lot of different things that really mess with people and caused a lot of health degradation, if not straight deaths, right? Then we learned, oh, that's the thing. This mercury is like really bad. We shouldn't be anywhere around this. The properties of this element are pretty terrible. Then we fixed that, right? We didn't do that. Like, it took a while. It's not like instant or anything, but that's the point. Progress. Progressive, not instantaneous gratification. Lead, when we found out we're putting lead in everything, it's poisoning the hell out of us. We're like, well, let's get rid of lead out of all those things. Where's it coming from? Everywhere, but mostly, the emissions from gas. Oh, well, we can fix that. Let's just get rid of that. Like, we don't need that. We could still have vehicles and, obviously there was more problems with that we needed to look into, but at least at that point, we're like, let's at least fix this. So you find a problem, you realize it's a problem, and you come up with solutions to fix it. That's the way we should be working. That is the way we move into the future. That's the way we assure ourselves of having a future. Now, that's probably way more hopeful than I usually get in my podcasts. And I don't even consider that hope. I just consider that directional, like that. There is hope there. But you've got to go towards that end to get the hope. The hope doesn't exist. The hope is a potential. There's potential hope there if we do what we're supposed to to better not just our lives, but all mankind. And again, you don't choose. You don't go, oh, well, I just have to live in abject misery so things will be better for other people. No, you get to have a good life too, but your focus shouldn't be you. Your focus should be all mankind. If you can contribute, if you're serving food at the diner where all the astronauts come and eat because they're busy building technologies that's going to help us reach the stars and escape the inevitable disasters that will happen on planet Earth regardless of climate change, then yeah, you are doing a job that is helping the future of mankind, and all you're doing is scraping together some burgers on a grill and some fries and stuff because you're aiding in the process. Not every job is glamorous. Not every job is inspirational or innovative. I guess is the word I'm looking for. That's not how it works. Sometimes when you're working menial, garbagey kind of jobs, but you can feel good about that knowing you're not the innovator. You probably couldn't be if you wanted to be. Nothing against you, not to say you're not a smart person. Maybe you just don't have the training. Maybe your brain is just wired a little bit different than other people. Maybe the fact is the people who are doing the job, theirs are the brains who are wired a little bit different. And maybe that's why they're the innovators. It doesn't matter why. The fact is, not everybody's going to be the rocket scientist. Some people are going to clean the trash. Some people are going to empty the garbages that they, bring their Starbucks and drink down and throw in the garbage can, hopefully respectfully and not just leave on counters and spill everywhere, right? But then somebody's got to come and clean that up because that's part of the process, because that's how we advance humanity. Not everybody gets to be the star and the hero. But as long as a society, we are focused on the important ideals of advancing our civilization, and we can get a little bit of joy for ourselves, not just in the jobs we do, but outside where you get paid a living wage, where you get vacation, where you get to take your family out on the national parks that are these pristine, beautiful, preserved landscapes and see the wildlife there that you have helped preserve through our joint mission of, advancing our civilization, which, yes, includes helping to preserve the only planet that we have to live on and finding a balance there. That's going to keep us from falling into disgrace and eventual extinction. But until then, I'm going to keep telling you, we're headed towards apocalypses. We can either watch out and do something about it or we're not. And that's what we're talking about, those signposts. And we're like, here's another sign of us disregarding our own best interests and just having us or even just a few people, prioritizing their self-interest. And to that end, I guess the whole point of that was the asteroids aren't really a signpost of that because they're not something that we're doing to ourselves. They're just kind of, and not all apocalypses are going to be, self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing or man-made disasters, right? But every single one of them can be avoided if we know it's coming and we can do something about it. Every single one. So are we moving to do that? Are we moving to save ourselves from these potential disasters? Or are we just throwing up our hands and saying, whatever, I've got a cushy life, F everybody else? So, let's get started on our main topic here, asteroids, and get to it, right? We talked enough around it and why talking about these things are or are not important. It's time to actually talk about these things. So, here we are, and here's the name of this asteroid. I thought it was something for. It's a 2024 YR4. Yeah. And as of this point on this AI overview, which is, a little out of date from the latest numbers that I had seen in a recent YouTube video by, I don't know, maybe I should bring bring YouTube up and see if I can find out, because I just subscribed to this guy recently. See who that person is that I just subscribed to. That's doing a lot of really good work in helping me learn about some. Here we go. His name is Fraser Crane. Fraser Kane. Fraser Kane. That is the name of the guy whose video I was watching. He said we just got that update. That it dropped down to a 0% chance. He's got a. I was watching something called the Space Race, but it seems almost a little more propaganda nowadays. So I might just. I like that he has a lot of good history and stuff on his channel, and he seems to have some ins that not necessarily other video content creators have. I really like that aspect. I just don't like some of the propaganda-y stuff he goes into. So there's definitely something good there. But I think this guy is going to be a lot better. He seems to be more matter of fact. These are the things that are happening. These are some really good things. These are some maybe not necessarily good things, without saying, you know, this guy doing so great. We really enjoy him. You know, this guy is just it's like I don't want that. I just want the facts. And if you want to give me a little bit of coloration to this is not necessarily good and let me give you some context, that's good too. But don't just give me your opinion because hey, I like this person. That's not good. Right? That's not helpful. So anyways, the point is Fraser Kane got the information that it went down to 0. So this says it has a 2.3% chance of hitting Earth is a little out of date. Okay. So, and I was looking up all asteroids of concern, like ones that we will be looking at that have potential for, you know, hitting the Earth at some point, maybe, or coming close. And so, you know, the most concerning, obviously, is the 2024 YR4 in 2032 and Apophis, which I don't know why that's not being talked about more because it's 2029, which is sooner. And it's saying the impact for Apophis is currently at 0, which, yeah, that probably is why we're not talking about it as much. It's just that a lot of conspiracy theorists, even if it says 0, they're like, yeah, but they don't really know. You know what I mean? They don't really know for sure. And so why they wouldn't talk about Apophis, which is sooner, so they could start, you know, hitting that panic button for people and getting content hits on it for something that's happening sooner, I'm not sure. But I guess they kind of figure, hey, we cried wolf on Apophis for so long that nobody's believing us now anyways. So let's look at some of these other ones that it lists on this AI overview. Here is the Wire 2024. Monitoring, including redirected the James Webb Telescope to observe it. That's kind of cool. Apophis 2029, closer than some satellites, although its impact probability is currently 0. Bennu. This asteroid is the largest of the Osiris REX missions, which has returned samples to the Earth. There is a 1 in 2,700 chance that Bennu will impact the Earth in 2082 with potential devastating effects. Okay. Near-Earth objects, there are asteroids and comets who orbits bring them close to Earth. Subset of NEOs or near-Earth objects. Asteroids are larger than 140 meters in size and have orbits that bring them close to the Earth orbit. There is Atens, Earth-crossing NEAs with orbits smaller than Earth's. Apollos, Earth-crossing NEAs with orbits larger than Earth's. Oh, so these are not asteroids, but classifications. Armors are Earth-approaching NEAs with orbits between Earth and Mars. Century risk table. Table lists potential hazardous asteroids with some threat of impacting Earth in the next 100 years. There's 2023 TL4. I'm assuming 2023 is when they found it because 2024 YR4. was discovered in 2024, and it's obviously 2025 now. So I'm not assuming it's supposed to be 2023 because that was 2 years ago. It doesn't say when, but it's called 2023 TL4. 29075 or 1950 DA, another PHA. What did it say PHA stands for? I don't see it. Anyways, with a very low impact probability, 2007 FT3 with a very low impact probability. So that's a list of asteroids with low impact probabilities, along with the top three that have the highest impact probabilities that we know of at the moment. So now we're going to look at the Torino scale. The Torino scale is a method for categorizing the impact hazards associated with near Earth objects, or NEOs. So it is intended as a communication tool for astronomers and the public to access the seriousness of collision predictions by combining probability statistics and known kinetic damage potential into a single threat value. The Palermo scale is similar but more complex scale. Okay. So these are good because this is kind of your magnitude for earthquakes. Um, your I'm trying to think of some other your hurricane. What's the hurricane level at? What's the tornado F number? The I can't remember what the F stands for. I believe it's somebody's name something scale again. Um, so yeah, so these different levels, which are good because when a person hears, "Oh, it's an F1 tornado," they're like, "Oh, that's bad." Obviously, no tornado is good, but it's not like you know absolutely horrifying. We're probably going to be okay, unless your house is made out of straw and spit. You're probably going to be okay, but not for sure. For sure, I just say for sure, didn't I? Anyways, um, so yeah, an F1's probably going to be okay. F2 is a little worse, and so on. And the whole thing. It gives us a certain expectation of what's coming. So the Torino scale, it's kind of their version for um, Earth impacts, and that's good because it gives people a, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that's what it is, which is really good for people to have a sense of what's coming and what sort of impact and danger we're looking at from it. So it says near Earth objects with a Torino scale of 1 are discovered several times a year and may last a few weeks until they have a longer observation arc that eliminates any possibility of a collision. The only objects on the Torino scale that have ever ranked higher are asteroids 99942 Apophis, which had a rating of 4 for 4 days in late 2004, the highest recorded rating. 2004 VD, which we also read about, with a historical rating of 2 from February to May 2006, and 2024 YR4 with a rating of 3 from January 25 to 2025. So first, the scale goes up to 10. So it's a 1 to 10 sort of thing, like a little bit like magnitudes of an earthquake. Obviously, there's theoretical 11s and 12s on the magnitude scale, but 10 is generally where they kind of go up to, and usually 8 or 9 is kind of near the top of what they've been mentioned as potentials for the most part. And I believe that they somewhere in here it says that they haven't found anything with a risk higher than 4. Like it's always been between 1 and 4. Now we're going to look at Apophis specifically. Let's look at the Big Daddy asteroid that almost ended all life on the planet for scale. Chicxulub was around 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles in diameter. So unfortunately, it's giving estimated sizes. It's not giving a lot of estimated weight. So when the other asteroids are giving weight, it's hard to do a comparison. But 6.2 miles. That is a freaking huge piece of Earth that impacted, and still we survived. Right? I want to emphasize that point. That it was 6.2 miles. And even though we could definitely have gone extinct, we did survive. It is possible. This one, Apophis, is 450 meters, about 1,480 feet. That's definitely not tiny, for sure. That's, that's definitely a city killer, for sure. But it is not a planet killer. Physical characteristics. It looks, it looks a little like a potato, for sure. It's bigger than the Eiffel Tower and just a scooch taller than the Empire State Building. But obviously it's got more mass. So if you drop like, I don't know, a few Empire State Buildings in one place on the planet, you're going to do a lot of damage. But again, it's not going to be extinction level event. You're probably definitely going to wipe out a city though, for sure. Yeah, it's not even possible impact. There we go. That's what we want. As a comparison, the Chicxulub impact had a equivalent of 100 million megatons or 100 teratons. So yeah, so there's your comparison right there. So 1.2 thousand megatons. So okay, so I think I'm in. So okay, it's not 1 megaton; it's 1.2 thousand megatons. Okay, that's definitely bigger than our biggest. I was looking at it wrong. I was looking at it 1.2 thousand instead of 1.2 thousand million. So that's 1.2 billion megatons of TNT, which is really how they should have said it. So that's my bad. That's definitely bigger than any one bomb that we've created. Even the Tsar Bomba, the theoretical Tsar Bomba from Russia is 100 megatons. So this is, 1.2 times that because it's 1,200. So, 12 times. It's like 12 Tsar Bombas. Still not enough to wipe out the entire planet. It's going to do a hefty amount of damage. Definitely enough kinetic energy to wipe out a city, probably even a metropolis with a 1.2 gigaton, bomb essentially being dropped on it. So, yeah, not good, but not like, not world ending. World ending for the people who get anywhere near it, for sure. And it would be nice to talk to an actual physicist, somebody who studies impacts and stuff, and ask them about, potential wave heights, depending on where it hits, timing, all that kind of stuff would be fun. But I don't have one of those experts with me at the moment, and my podcast is not far enough reaching to, get a hold of one of them and have them take it seriously to appear on my program yet. Someday. Okay, now we're going to talk about the ESA. It says, there we go. European Space Agency Planetary Defense Office is closely monitoring the recently discovered asteroid 2024 YR4, which has a very small chance of impacting Earth in 2032, which, like I said, they would drop that to essentially zero. I think it's like not actually zero. It's like 0.00001 or something like that. So nothing's ever zero, right? I mean, something could sweep through and knock Jupiter out of the orbit, and it can run into us. Like, there's not a 0% chance of anything, right? There's always a chance of something. So to say something zero is just to say how dumb we are about the quantum nature of the universe. And even though the macro universe doesn't work on quantum unpredictability, there is still an inherent unpredictability within it, mirroring that of some of the more basic mechanics of the quantum world. And of course, the quantum world, being the world that underlies all of the world, has its influences. So, all right. So it's just talking about that particular asteroid, near Earth asteroid. Shortly after its discovery, automated asteroid warning systems determined that the object had a very small chance potentially impacting Earth. Okay, asteroid is now rated at level 3 on the Torino scale. Again, that was before, when it still had a 2.3% chance. Actually, this is saying higher. It's not saying how much, than a 1% chance at the point at which it was talking. So even this was, a little bit more than it is now, but less than when they bumped it up to the 2. There's an ESA is responsible for facilitating the international exchange of information, developing opportunities for collaborative research and missions. So yes, they are talking about going out to the asteroid and studying it. Now, we do have plans in place for an asteroid large enough and one that we're sure enough might hit the Earth that we can do something about it to try to keep it from doing it. These are very untested methods. We haven't worked out all the kinks. We don't know exactly if it will work, but theoretically it will. So we do have a few options. One of them is gravity. What we do is we send out an object like a satellite or something, something with enough mass that it's going to change the orbit of the object, especially if it's coming close to Earth but not hitting it, but it has a potential in the future. If we can change the orbit enough, we could assure that it doesn't come back and hit the Earth later. It might just go further and further and further away until it, escapes out into the Oort cloud or something like that. So we can do little things like that. There's talk about like exploding a nuclear bomb on it, not to destroy it, but just to cause a reaction. And of course, every action causes an opposite and equal reaction. So the action is the explosion. The reaction would be the asteroid being pushed from the force of the explosion. And if we could just push it just enough to kind of get it out of the way. I don't know how effective a force wave would be because we don't have atmosphere here for a mechanical wave to actually hit the asteroid through like an atmosphere. So I don't know if you could explode a nuclear bomb near it and still have enough of a force impact from the explosion itself to actually knock it off course without actually directly hitting it, or you might just have to directly hit it with one or more nuclear bombs in order to pass enough kinetic energy to the object to push it into a slightly different course. But we do have different, contingencies for something like a near Earth object that's coming to murder us all. All right, so now we're going to talk about NEOWISE. It's finding, tracking, and characterizing asteroids. So, what is NEOWISE? This was on my tablet before. It's on my phone now because, as I've mentioned before, I can't record on my tablet and switch over and read stuff off at the same time. So, let's see. Let's get a little bit bigger, and I just have to scroll. NEOWISE project was the asteroid hunting portion of the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer mission. So, NEO. The WISE part is the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. I don't know what the NEO part was. They didn't say, but that was the WISE part. Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer mission, funded by NASA's Planetary Science Division. Harvested measurements of asteroids and comments from the WISE images and provided a rich archive of searching WISE data for solar system objects. During its primary mission, NEOWISE delivered infrared detections of more than 158,000 minor planets to the scientific community, including more than 34,000 new discoveries. NEOWISE data has been used to set limits on the number of orbit sizes, probability compositions of asteroids throughout our solar system, and enabled the discovery of the first known Earth Trojan asteroids. Now, I've seen this recently in a video from Fraser Cain as well. There are asteroids that are basically sitting in Lagrange points. And what Lagrange points are balances in gravity. So if you take two objects of the exact same mass and you put them at an equal distance apart, there's going to be a point between the two where gravity is going to be equal both towards one object and towards the other. And if you can sit in that point, because the gravity from those objects, especially depending how close they are, will be the only significant gravity forces that that object will, there's other gravity out there, but those will be the only significant gravity forces acting on that object. Therefore, it's going to want to go to one of those and not just in a different direction. And if you could sit right there at the exact right point, you're going to have a balance, which means it'll just sit there forever unless something knocks it off its course or something comes and disturbs it in some way, right? An object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force, right? So these Lagrange points are basically gravitational resting spots between large gravitational bodies. And in our solar system, it's a lot of it's a planet and the sun. That's where a lot of it is. I believe we have one between Earth and the moon as well. And sometimes they shift, obviously, depending on where the planet's moving, depending on where it is in its orbit, the moon, where it is around the Earth, and where the Earth is around its orbit as far as the influence of the sun. So there's lots of little factors, but there are these points which are known as Lagrange points. And in these Lagrange points, there is a sort of area of effect. It's not always just this one little itsy bitsy teeny point. Sometimes you can find a large enough area where you can have kind of a small orbit. And an object can kind of orbit in this area, sort of slowly being pulled by these different gravity bodies, but never having enough pull in any one direction to escape this point. And those they're calling Trojan asteroids. And I think that's because, it seems like everything's great and dandy and you're just this nice, peaceful point, but there's really this sort of, hidden danger in there that if you're not careful and you don't know about, we could run into. Some of these points are in orbits around other planets, like Jupiter and Mars and Venus all have these Lagrange points. And there are points at which our orbits sort of overlap a little bit. Our orbits are not perfect centrifugal rings, branching out like the sun is a stone dropped in a pool, and each one of our planets is just a ripple. So because of that, there's always a chance that we could get close to one of these Lagrange points of another planet, and it can be in the way of our orbit. It's obviously not going to be all the planets because most of them we don't get anywhere near their orbit, let alone their Lagrange points, but there are a few places where we could get fairly close, or at least close enough to gravitationally pull out of the Lagrange point an object. And so those are essentially the Trojan asteroids that this was just bringing up. Um, so, yeah. First potential asteroid, near Earth asteroid, 2013 YP139. Interesting initial performance. Neowise revisited missions are described in here. Your disaster. Current status. Observations were completed on July 31st, 2004. Spacecraft was decommissioned. So it seems like Neowise was part of a space-based observation platform, whether it's just a satellite or part of the ISSS. I don't know. Probably says a little bit more in here, although it wasn't completely forthcoming in that first little paragraph. But the point is, it's kind of been decommissioned, but the work goes on. Like there's still places where they're observing the night sky. We have a lot of citizen scientists out there, amateur astronomers and all that who are constantly discovering new things, going through data from James Webb. There's just a lot of eyes on this now that were never there before. Obviously, it all goes through proper channels. It's not going to be like one guy's like, I found it, we're all going to die. And then they just announce it's like, no, this has got to go through the different people from NASA and other places where they look at the data and analyze it and say, yeah, no, we see what you're seeing, but you're wrong about your analysis of it, right? So we have all those things. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was looking into some go bags after that because I need to put together a go bag. I don't really have the money to go into that at the moment, but I want to in the near future. It's always good to have a go bag. Sooner is better, but I also want to do it right. So I was just pulled up some stuff. There's something called westernleathergoods.com, the Lone Horse Canvas Backpack, which to me was looking really good. It's got a lot of pockets. It's not really a backpacking backpack. Those are literally hundreds of dollars, and they have the aluminum frames and stuff to hang your sleeping bags and your tents and all that stuff. And not that all that stuff is bad. You should definitely have that. You need hundreds of dollars for that. I just want a bag I can grab real quick and have supplies enough, like they say, for 48 hours. That's what you should have. I expect more like a week. A week would be better for me as far as my, being of sound mind. Because even if there's a disaster and my home is fine, but we're out of power, we're out of water, we're out of all those things, I still need to survive. And if I just go to my go bag and I have like the little sippy straw where I can have that filter and drink clean water, even if the water's not particularly clean, boil all the bacteria and stuff away and then use the sippy straw, whatever. And I just have to go to my go bag for that where I'm not actually going anywhere. That's still good. I still want that stuff there. And like I've mentioned before, there's the alternate pack, which you want in case you can take it with you in your car, right? Where you're going to have a lot more there than you would just in a regular backpack. But you also have to plan that you might not be able to take your car, so that you'll just be what's in your backpack. Make sure what's in your backpack will suffice. The rest is supplementary. It is not essential. And then I was also looking at this called Wilder Dog, or Wildy Dog, I guess. And it's a dog backpack because I have a little dog. And I'm like, I want my dog to be able to carry his own supplies, not because I'm afraid to help and carry some with him, but we can carry more if we're all carrying it. And if he's carrying, a couple of bottles of water for himself, a collapsible dish probably, a small thing of maybe freeze-dried food or something, I mean, I know it's the dog food's just dried pellets anyways, but, you'd want him to have something like some jerky or something like that. Something that'll last along, but he'll like a lot better than just the hard, crunchy stuff. because I mean, you got to eat what you got to eat. You're not going to have the food except what you bring with you, right? And you have access to. But sometimes the same old thing gets old, and even for animals, they're like, okay, can I have, like a treat or something? I'm a good boy. And it's like, heck yeah, you can, because yes, you are a good boy. So that's something I'm also looking into. So I had those up. Before it's time to move on to the next subject, which we will get into in the next podcast. For me, I'm going to record it right after this. Obviously, I got to edit all this stuff. I got to upload it, and then I've got to schedule it. So right now, I think maybe the beginning of April is where I've scheduled out to so far. So this will be like somewhere in April, starting to get towards May, hopefully. Our dog is not feeling great. We had to take him to the vet. So yeah, he's doing better today, I think. It can be hard to tell, but he seems to be having a little bit more energy. Seems to be eating a little bit more, drinking a little bit. So he seems to be doing better. He's not out of the woods, as it were, but he's doing better. Because we were going to do some traveling this weekend. I had a little extra money because this isn't a. I get paid twice a month, and one of them is going to be heavily for bills, and the other one won't be as heavy for bills if I plan it right. And so this one wasn't quite as heavy for bills, and I was like, hey, let's go. We're not going to go like far away for 7 days or anything, but just out of town a little bit for the day. But the dog being sick, we didn't end up doing that. So I've got more video that I want to shoot for different places that I want to put in that aren't podcast related or just travel, doing different stuff, rock hounding, that kind of stuff. So I do plan on doing some more of that and putting that up. Right now it's getting close to being out of all the stuff that I've scheduled. But there's not much I can do about that. It is getting to be springtime. Tomorrow's officially rolling back the clock, or rolling forward, however you want to look at it, spring ahead, right? So the official start of spring for human beings, animals, it's kind of whenever they decide. We're getting some more birds, but we're still holding on to some of the winter birds. We didn't have a lot of a winter here, so I think some of the animals are a little bit confused as is it still winter or is it not. We've had frost on the ground for the last couple of days. So yeah, it's cold and it's supposed to be even colder. We're supposed to get like a lot of inches of snow up in the mountains. So, there's just a little confusion of that. And obviously the birds and the animals aren't necessarily flocking back, so I can make a lot of great just watching the cool birdie videos. I'm definitely going to get that live camera up at some point for the birds and watching them get fed and everything. And come and there's lots of downtime for that, obviously, but the birds will come over, the squirrels will come over, all that kind of stuff. Have some lights on there. I want to put spend some more money and get the solar lights and string them up in there so we could see animals eating even at night or whatever they are. I don't want night vision's a little bit out of my budget. So we're going to take care of all that coming up. Obviously, a lot of that's not podcast stuff, but I'm just mentioning it because, doing this and things are coming up and how we're getting these things scheduled out and try to fill up as much space as we can and not, let things lax as far as putting out good content. But we'll see. It's definitely nice and sunny today. It's the first weekend that it's been sunny in a while, and since I'm a 9 to 5er now, Monday through Friday, and because it's been winter, every day when I get home, it is dark or getting dark. So it's hard to do any real little clips and stuff that I like to do with the animals in the yard. So anyways, we are going to stop this here. Like I said, I'm going to do the next one, and it'll just get scheduled out. The next one, well, of course, things can always happen, and the schedule of when things get released can switch around a little. So telling you what the next one's going to be, it could happen or it could not. So it's better just to, let the podcasts fall where they may, if you will. Will we survive our own apocalypse? Only time will tell.